And for further analysis on the current situation in Syria, we're now joined from California by Dr. Ashraf Singer, world politics analyst for United Media Services. Welcome to Q News, sir. Now, let's start by your point of view. How did the language used in the Syrian Prime Minister's speech reflect the country's political situation?
Yeah, sad. It's really mad to see that transition in Syria occurred by that way. Of course, the prime minister was trying to deliver a message for Syrian people to increase, that kind of level of trust that they can really manage, that transition. But in fact, the Syria that collapse of the Assad government was really a signal or a major turning point about the future of Syria. That path, uh, towards, stability will take some time. And we're gonna to see some challenges, including, the need uh, to build, or rebuild
Mhm,
the governance structure,
mhm,
addressing, what the major problem for the people needs and prevent, the further regional instability. Syria is not really a small country. Syria is really neighboring many countries, and its location it's very crucial
mhm,
to keep that stability in the Middle East, particularly that war between Israel and Lebanon, war between Israel and Gaza or Hamas. So that situation now in that time is not easy
mhm,
to see the Middle East in the right direction now.
mhm. So, what messages did the Syrian Prime Minister aim to convey to international audiences in his speech? What were the main highlights?
So the prime minister, in his message, of course, he admit, that the collapse of the current regime or Assad regime, he was trying, to invite, the international community to look carefully to Syria transitions. Of course, probably under his estimation, still need to get, I would say, clarification from neighboring Syria, like
Mm,
Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, the whole of the Arab community. Fortunately, Egypt, was clear about it. His message that sent, clearly to the people of Syria first,
mm,
that Egypt is working hard with Syrian people to support their transitions, and Egypt actually learned from its history. This is really important, and this is really crucial for Syria now.
mhm,
So I think that support by Egypt government and Egypt as a state is very important as a major country in the Arab world. Syria is very important for Egypt. It's very important for the Arab unity and Arab community. So gladly that is I heard that message from Egypt government. That is, or Egypt as a state is giving that message clear to the international community that Egypt gonna to give full support for Syria
mhm,
to come back again as a regional player in the Arab world and
mhm,
Arab.
mhm. Dr. Singer, as a media expert, what are the implications of Syrian state television declaring the fall of Bashar al Assad's regime?
Wow, it was really big surprise. Even here in United States, some people really called me. They were crying. They didn't really like, to see that transitions occurred in Syria by that way, particularly from the terrorist group, for that name of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham
Mm,
as the leader of this group, Golani or Golani. That group by United States, listed that group as a terrorist group. So some people cannot really digest this. How come that guy, he just like last month was head of a terrorist group, and now uh, you see him, leading that transition in Syria. This is not right, for Syria, for the future of Syria. If the terrorist group or the people, they were claiming they are representing, the moderate of Islam, or they were in that gonna to fight corruption in Syria, or they were fighting an Assad or Assad regime. It seems to me like in the future in Syria will be really uh, crucial. It will be very crucial for Syria, particularly with these groups of terrorists gonna to fight each other to control Syria, the
Hmm.
decision of Syria. And this
Hmm.
is my concern actually for future of Syria. The ongoing, what we learned from history, these guys gonna to fight each other, and this is scary because I would like, to just encourage, and encourage the Syrian people to be very careful in that transitions, and listen carefully. That messages, came from these guys. Never ever gonna to present the future of Syria. So the Syrian people should fight back to get their army and get their government, and create their own government based on their will through election, or changing, the politicians by the peaceful way, because keeping fighting or increasing that level of violence in Syria will not serve their interest, and Syria needs really to stop, that violation, or that violation of its border, either from Israel or other countries. They need really to divided Syria, and
Hmm.
everyone, uh, he or she, in his or her decision, is trying, to capture part of the Syria territory, and this is not right for the integrity of the state
Hmm.
of Syria, because we need Syria to be as one country, one people, one army, one government. This is the future should be seen soon in Syria, not really by the hand of the terrorists, who were who are who is, I'm sorry, responsible to take lead of changing, the regime. But it seems to be, I got surprised, frankly, the fall of Assad regime by that way, and the silence of many major
Which brings
powers.
me to a very important question, Dr. Singer. The response of the international community to the fall of Bashar al Assad's regime. How do you see it so
Yeah,
far?
yeah, this is a good point. We have to watch it carefully. I read, many scholars, wrote in New York Times and Washington Post, referring to the I would say the competition among the major powers like China, Russia, US, the US, and they were really competing each other, and they left, that vacuum, or that area in the world, Syria,
Hmm.
to see these guys, like the terrorist groups, coming. But fortunately, the Middle East, the Arab world, learning from Egypt legacy,
Hmm.
getting back his state after, the what they call it, the Arab Spring, and it wasn't ever, Arab Spring. It was Fall Spring. It was uh, it's not spring.
Hmm.
But why my best understanding that Egypt, did represent a very good model for Syria, and they have to really, the Syrian people, they have to read the Egypt case very well. But by the end, that we cannot really rely on the international community, because the international community now very divided over Lebanon, over Gaza. So it's still, we have to trust our people. We have to build our country, build our army,
Hmm.
build our institutions. That we should do now, not even tomorrow. I think this is the lesson they should learn from Egypt case.
Hmm.
So Egypt, and the very there is a very important point too. Egypt and the Arab world is still neighboring Syria. So never ever these guys gonna to leave Syria alone for the terrorist people over there, and they have to 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 listen carefully that that all that terrorist group they gonna to fight each other need to take Syria to the civil war, and unfortunately the country that really moved to that transitions, never ever came back uh, to be uh, another the old Syria.
Yes.
But
So what I understand from you, Dr. Singer, is that we shouldn't expect much from the international community since it's already divided in global issues, including Gaza, Lebanon, Ukraine,
sure,
China, Taiwan, and so on. So, what
sure.
challenges would Syria face in rebuilding its state institutions after the regime's collapse, considering what you have just told us?
Yeah, I mean, the main challenge that is, Syria, in terms of the model of democracy, is not, we cannot really export that model from the United States or Europe to apply in Syria because each country has her model or it is model, in terms of democracy. So building an institution, this is a very important, but the Syrian people, they have to focus on building their military, the Syrian military. This is the most important because that institution gonna to lead the country and they gonna to open, the transitions or open the path. I'm sorry, to the transition to democracy. If we can really adapt that model of democracy by the Western, but I would say it's a Syrian democracy. It's a Syrian model. They know much better than us for their country, and this is what good about the Egypt foreign policy that we need to support Syrian people, but they have to take their own decision without any kind of forcing on their decision. But it seems to me like in terms of next administration, even Trump, he said, Syria is irrelevant. Syria is not friend, is not enemy. But uh, but but my question actually in Syria was falling kind of a trap between Russia and United States, at a Cold War, It was a big competition between Russia and United States. And we have to remind ourselves that was a war of attrition. Um, between Russia and United States. And
Yes.
Syria was like a buffer to it. And this is
Yes.
one of the problem. If you inviting, like a major power to lead your country rather than to let your country control it is sovereignty and it is power and everything's by the people hand and by the Syrian people. So
Yes.
it's a kind of learning,
But again,
but it
this is
takes some
closely
time.
related, Dr. Singer, to the humanitarian situation. In any country where there is conflict, the humanitarian situation worsens. And the humanitarian crisis in Syria has actually worsened due to the political and security challenges. What's your take on that?
You are correct about that point. After the collapse of Assad regime, the Syrian currency fall dramatically, and I read before that level of inflation in Syria was crazy in Syria. So we learned um, from that case before the fall of the Assad regime. Uh, Israel was attacking, Syria. Of course, that degree of stability wasn't really sure. The United States was attacking Syria territory, so that stability wasn't really clear. Why, why, why the U.S. was really attacking the Syria regime? But it was of attrition, as I mentioned. But I can tell you that is, people in Syria they were suffering uh, from that humanitarian crisis in terms of level of transportations or that kind of security to secure the transportations from place to place and the displacement. People also. So it was a war in every corner in Syria, and this is why the central government was facing uh, many challenges in last 10 years. Syria never ever got a degree of stability in terms of responding to respond to the people needs, the public administration definition of the role of the government there. So Syria was fighting in very in different provinces, Aleppo, Homs, Hama. So there are different provinces
But
in
this led
Syria.
to the current situation now, the latest
All,
updates. So, what are the possible scenarios for Syria's future following the collapse of the Syrian regime?
Till now, no one can really predict exactly what is next in Syria because every country has its own case. But Syria, of course, different than other countries. They were facing the challenges, after Arab Spring. But so basically, we are watching carefully for next step by the Syrian people. That transition by the period by the people of Syria. So, but of course, we understand there are different steps they have to move or they have to cross, to get their own country back again in terms of security and stability. So first, they need really to adapt the peaceful transitions, try to stop all the terrorist group, control their own decision, particularly with their neighbors and with their own. We don't like to watch or see Syria fall of the civil war. This is one of the crucial uh, steps for Syria because civil war is a crazy. We cannot really control country if their people decide to fight each other. No one can really help this country. They're gonna to kill each other. They're gonna to fight each other. So this is will be like uh, more crazy than Assad period. If we admit that during Assad period, or the Assad regime, uh, they were, the Syrian, they were fighting each other. This was bad. So my prediction that Syria gonna to move to different steps to reach that degree of stability. But Syrian people they need to think carefully about their future and they have to be very careful in terms of choosing their people who gonna to represent them, what type of institution they need. If they can really adapt the Western democracy, it's okay. They can adapt their own democracy, it's okay. But by the end, they need to be a one unity. They have to learn from Egypt model. Egypt succeeded to build its state, and Egypt now you can see it. After Arab Spring, no one can really predict Egypt to be like that way now. President of Egypt in Denmark, Norway, Ireland, and Norway. So is in his trip, you can see this is a smart country, is a rising country. So this is the future of Syria. Need to think carefully about model of Egypt too. But Egypt, as a model or succeeded model after the Arab Spring, that the people of Egypt were fighting the terrorist guys. They didn't really people of Egypt allow these guys control the Egypt, and this is the lesson that Syrians should really learn and adapt that model because no one can really trust terrorist group because by the end they're gonna to lead the country to be like Afghanistan
Yes.
or any bad model in international
Yes.
community.
Well, that was Dr. Ashraf Singer, world politics analyst for United Media Services. Thank you very much, sir, for your insights.